So when I became a practitioner, I decided I really wanted to use it. I use it in my practice, my psychiatry practice, but I really wanted to push it out in coaching to really expand my reach.
Hmm.
Um, so in the beta testing that I did on my coaching, several of the subjects were Black female professionals, Black female psychiatrists. And so we were seeing some of the very same issues that we dealt with, you know, microaggressions, racism during our training, um, seeing our patients deal with racism and how that affected us trying to advocate for them. So the Unblocked and Unbound program, I focus on high achieving women of color because that is most of the folks that I have worked with. And I found that a three session package seems to really deal very well with many of the issues that folks are dealing with. So RTT, what it does is when you are addressing limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
it's kind of like peeling the layers of an onion. So other stuff comes up. So sometimes the limiting beliefs are at the base, but sometimes you deal with those limiting beliefs and there are other things kind of underneath that come up or are related. So the program consists of an intake where we thoroughly look at the issue, look at how might that show up, how's it showed up in your family, what's your childhood like, just to really have a very good foundation of what we're dealing with. So let's say somebody wants to work on procrastination. So how does that show up? And we really look at in the intake, how do you feel you want your life to look like without procrastination? So you really get to tune into the imagination and really start to dream about what is this going to look like. And I also teach the client how to go into hypnosis. The induction into hypnosis is really about 3 or 4 minutes, but I show them how we're going to do it. And I send a relaxation recording so that they can practice, so that they are really primed to do it when we then have our session, typically about a week later. And the session itself is 90 minutes to 2 hours. So
Hmm.
that gives us lots of time to deal with the issue. And then I check in. So I check in a week, and in two
Hmm.
weeks, you kind of do a Zoom call to see how things are going, make sure things are on track. I have to reinforce, listen to the recording because that's really what helps it to work,
Hmm.
rewiring your thinking. So, one cycle is about 4 weeks, and then we
Hmm.
work on a second issue related or maybe sometimes different that's come up. So we kind of do that 3 times, and that makes it about 10 to 12 weeks. And then we sum up, kind of what has been the experience, what have you taken away, so that we have a um, really good knowledge of what has taken place. So that's
Mm.
the program.
I love that. Do you ever find that somebody might say, "Oh, I want to deal with procrastination," and then all they talk about is money issues?
Well, so if you want to deal with procrastination, so in hypnosis, we're asking the subconscious mind, why does so and so procrastinate? And then the
Uh-huh.
subconscious mind we're going to review scenes. That client is going to review scenes from their past. And then we look at the scenes and we're able to identify what are the limiting beliefs. What is the subconscious showing us? Okay. So that's what's so efficient about it. The subconscious mind is showing us the way. And
Mm.
then we deal with the limiting beliefs. So it's not like somebody is doing lots of talking. It's that they're reviewing what is their mind showing us. Okay.
Mm.
And that's the good thing about RTT because the subconscious mind cuts right to the chase. In a lot of talk therapies, we're dealing with the conscious mind. And the
Mm.
conscious mind is really a gatekeeper because the conscious mind is trying to keep us safe.
Yeah.
It's dealing with threat assessment. So
Yeah.
any change, even positive change, feels dangerous. So that's
Mhm.
why a lot of talk therapies can take so long, because every week you're trying to break through that wall of
Mm.
resistance. Whereas the subconscious
Gotcha.
mind is like, let's get to it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Man, what's fascinating about everything you shared is that you combine your medical expertise with this like transformational therapy to create such a holistic approach.
Mhm.
Um, can you share an example of a breakthrough, a client experience that really affirmed you're on the
Mhm.
right path?
Sure. So I had a client who, very, very high achieving, but she had been dealing with an issue of some fear of abandonment and feeling insecure. And she had
Mm,
been dealing with this in her therapy for years and made some progress, but
mhm.
there was still something that she couldn't get at.
Yeah.
So in the RTT session, some scenes came up where she was looking at the fact that her father was not in her life, and her father had pretty much never been in her life.
Mm,
And so she realized that she felt like, what's wrong with me that my father is not in my life? And other scenes where she felt like people were not there for her. So, kind of the limiting belief was, I'm not enough. If I
mm,
were enough, my dad would want to be in my life. And children struggle with that all the time, whether it's divorce or a parent never being there. So, but on the surface, logically, you can say, well, it's not your fault. You had nothing to do with it. But emotionally,
mhm.
if that's what the child still believes, that is affecting how they operate. That's how the adult is still feeling that, and that's how they operate in the world. So once
Mhm.
she was able to, while in hypnosis, really understand that that was not my fault.
Mhm.
There is nothing wrong with me. He made that choice, and yeah, it was a bad choice for me, but that's not my issue to deal with. So you could see her face just light up when she was
Mm,
able to kind of uncouple that belief that the fact that her father didn't want to be in her life had nothing to do with her worth. So that that's just one example of how amazing this modality is, because you
yeah.
can talk yourself all day long in the
Uh,
logic that it's not it's not related, that's not my stuff. But until you go there emotionally in the
yeah.
subconscious mind, you may not believe it, because the logic, we are emotional beings.
Yeah.
We are not logical beings. So
Yeah.
that's an example.
Yeah. And I love this. I love this example too because so a lot of my work is housed under HR.
Mhm.
I've done everything from talent development to executive coaching to looking at data to see how organizational development works,
Mhm.
and being in the entrepreneurship space for a little bit and working with different startups and so forth and that scene. What I'm learning, especially from women who are leaving the corporate force and going into entrepreneurship, is that a lot of Black women, women of color, experience not being enough in corporate spaces. They kind of talk about it as it's either the glass cliff or the glass ceiling
Mhm.
that and no matter how much success they have, they're always going to be questioned. They're always going to have to work harder. So and some things that I think a lot of Black women started to realize in COVID is that they no longer wanted to subscribe to it. They wanted rest. They
Mhm.
wanted to feel like they belong, right? They wanted they wanted more, and
Mhm.
they just couldn't seem to find that more in the places of work, and so they wanted to figure it out elsewhere, whether they create it or they create a business that fits and affirms them as a person and allows them rest to restore, rest, and be their best. And so, all that to say, I'm curious, how do you tailor your program to meet the unique challenges faced by women of color, knowing that they have so many barriers when it comes to their success in the corporate world, from microaggressions and everything that we mentioned in this podcast?
So a lot of it depends on what does the woman want.
Mm,
Okay. So the client may want to make a choice. Um, I want to be comfortable with the idea of leaving, or
mm,
I want to be comfortable. I want to be more comfortable in how I navigate in this space. So one client, she wanted to feel more comfortable in her space because um, she kind of felt invisible. Um, and the business she was in, it was a lot of white males, and some of them, just the way they dealt with her, she just felt invisible.
mm-hmm,
So if you are choosing to stay in a space, you may not be able to change how people are. You can't change what people think, but changing the way you feel and the way you navigate can make a huge difference. So once she was able to deal with how racism, the racism she had come up with, how that
mm-hmm,
had impacted her, and she was able to again deal with some of those limiting beliefs that she had. So racism hasn't disappeared,
mm-hmm.
but her level of confidence and her knowing that she is valuable, that she has a skill set that people want and people need, that has allowed her to show up in a more confident way.
Mm,
She had gone to a conference and she was making all these connections. She was much putting herself out there. So she knows that the RTT session has helped her in her business, in her standing.
mhm.
And so that's allowed her to be more effective where she is. And she'll make a
Gotcha.
decision about what she's going to do, but it's just made a huge difference in how she navigates her space.
Man, I
Yeah.
love that.
Mhm.
I'm curious to know, how repetition plays a role in all this, because I know for me doing therapy, uh, one thing they don't tell you, like sometimes in those therapy sessions, sometimes you're like we said earlier, you're peeling those layers, those onions back,
Mhm.
and so I might deal with the issue at the 28-year-old me, then get down to the 27, 26, and then I'll hit a roadblock next week, and now I'm back to the 28-year-old version of me, or
Mhm.
that 5-year-old version of me. Like I'm constantly going back through these different cycles of layers depending on what's going on in life, right?
Mhm.
And I thought, like, once I leave this layer, that I'm done, but sometimes that's not how it works. So I'm curious, what role does repetition and
Mhm.
coaching play in solidifying the changes RTT brings about?
Yeah. So, repetition of listening to the recordings
Hmm.
is very important because there is this tendency to kind of fall back into the old stuff, which is the familiar stuff. Okay. Your
Hmm.
old ways of reacting and behaving. You've been doing it for years, so it's familiar. So, RTT, the goal is to make what was familiar unfamiliar
Mm.
and to make the positive changes which were unfamiliar to try to make those familiar. So the listening to the recording day after day helps to really reinforce those positive changes. And
Hmm.
change is not linear. It would be nice if you just kind of just went day by day and stuff was done. So it's kind of circular. It's kind of multidimensional. So there are times that something may trigger an old way of thinking. And I say to my clients, you can listen to any of those recordings because they are going to address other stuff. They're going to address
Mm,
other stuff that comes up in life. So I definitely I recommend listening to at least one of them every day because it can help to keep you on that path
mm.
of the change that took place. So
Yeah.
yes, repetition is it's very
Repetition is
important.
key. Repetition is key. All
Yes, yes.
right, let's dive into some lessons and advice you would give. You lived and this incredible journey of transformation from a medical profession to mental health advocate and coach. What are the biggest lessons you've learned about limiting beliefs and how they play out in our lives?
I think that some of the biggest lessons are that we can all be subjects to limiting beliefs. There no shame, okay? Because I think that when we have shortcomings, there may be a tendency to not want to admit it. Um, I think there is a tendency to want to, for some folks, look like we have it all together. When you see folks on social media, you typically see the successes or, you see their great photo shoots and they're looking fantastic. And so limiting beliefs they are there because of experiences that we've had. Experiences, and it might not even be anything traumatic. It can be something as simple as a child, you were told no. You were told no, maybe a little harshly. So as a child, you may even internalize, ooh, I'm bad. Ooh, I don't want to make a mistake. So something as innocent as that can set you up. So I would say really, consider anything. If you've got behaviors that you don't like, think about them and try to do something about them. And I do say that if what you've tried doesn't work, think about doing deeper work because the
Mm,
subconscious mind is very powerful. So
yeah.
that's what I have to say.
That's powerful right there. So for our listeners, I hope y'all taking notes because she dropping gems today. And many of our listeners who are aspiring entrepreneurs and community leaders, what advice would you give to help them break free of their own limiting beliefs and thrive in their pursuits? We know, come do a session with me, but
Okay. So besides that, okay, if you're aware that you have limiting beliefs, there are things that that you can try. I mean, a lot of people journal, and
Right,
journaling can really be helpful to just get you thinking about what it is that is holding you back, challenging
uh,
what's holding you back. Is this thought true? Um, you know, Sometimes
yeah,
people want to say, "Oh, I'm too old to get started." Get started with something new. Well, that's not
uh,
true. Okay, folks have
uh,
done stuff in their 80s and 90s. If you still have breath in your life, then you can do something new. So challenge yourself about the ideas. Like I
uh,
said, get into community
yeah,
because if you're in a trusted community, you can bounce stuff off of each other and you can hear what other people have done to kind of deal with things that have gotten them stuck. So those are
yeah.
some other
But get in the
things.
right community because here's
Yes.
what I say about this. Like, how can we as a community create safe spaces to talk about mental health and growth? Because, my parents and some of my family, they're part of my tribe, but that's not the safe space. That's not a safe community for me to talk about my mental health challenges. Like, how do we create these spaces? Like, because I think that's the challenge I have. That
Mhm.
you know, could you help us with identifying how we do that?
So creating safe spaces where you can talk about mental health, talk about challenges.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it probably starts with identifying folks that you know that seem safe. And I
Yeah.
think it would be start small. Okay.
Mhm.
I think starting small and maybe organically having a discussion with a couple folks. That might be a way to start a safe space. There are a number of entrepreneurial spaces where folks are pretty open about their mental health struggles. You know, very open about the fact that they go to therapy. So there are a couple out there, but if you don't know of them, I say start small with some folks that you know.
Yeah,
That
I
seems
like that.
safe.
Start small.
Mhm.
Going back to the journaling, because the journaling is something that I'm trying out this year too. That's one of my resolutions for the new year. Uh, um, what like how do I journal in a way that could really help me start rewiring my mindset? Like I want to, I don't want to just write things down to write things down, but do it in a way that helps me rewire my mindset.
So, so if you're aware of a limiting belief that you
Hmm.
have um, around, let's say, procrastination, that's a common one.
Hmm.
So it's a common behavior. Okay,
Hmm.
so if there are limiting beliefs related to that procrastination, might it be, um, I don't know how to do blah blah blah, or I'm not talented enough to do blah blah blah. So procrastination, it can happen for various reasons.
Hmm.
So if there are some limiting beliefs that you are aware of,
Hmm.
then you might journal about that belief, and you might consider, um, is it true? Have you been able to do things in other areas of your life that prove it's not true? Write stuff about that. Sometimes making up stories about the issue and how you are going to overcome the issue. That can be a way of just using your imagination to kind of deal with the limiting belief. And
Mm.
some folks use affirmations, positive
Yeah.
affirmations about, um, what you're going to do. So kind of reverse that limiting belief, flip it
Hmm.
on to the positive, and write the affirmations and speak the affirmations. So those
Hmm.
those can be helpful,
Yeah.
but I
Do,
like doing the deeper work. But
yeah, hey, you gotta do the deeper work. So I'm just giving them like a simple start to get their
yeah,
feet wet. So this is,
yeah,
some people it's new to them, so they want to tap their toe in the water before they jump into the water. So
sure,
give them a little something to tap their toe.
sure.
Going to affirmations, my friend sent me a playlist on Spotify, and it's like these pre-put together affirmations that you can listen to
Hmm.
before you go to bed or while you're just doing something in your day. What's your thoughts on those? Is that a good way for people to
Sure,
like?
sure. That's a. I think if you're going to do something, pick something that you're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think that if that makes it doable, I think that's a great place to start.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm guilty of starting things and not being consistent. So,
Yeah.
I'll admit that right here
Yeah.
now. So,
We
yeah.
have to we have to do an RTT session, doc, on that. We have to do an
Yes,
RTT session.
yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up like this because I could talk to you all day, but I don't do the Joe Rogan type podcast. Dr. Walker, this has been absolutely an enlightening conversation, and I'm so glad that we got connected. Who connected us again? What's his name?
Um, oh dang, that's terrible. Now I'm gonna blank.
We both blanked on it. Uh,
Yeah.
and I just had him on like 3 weeks ago because I met him at Speaker Hub, and I remember he said, "Oh, I got a great guest for you." I met.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh. Oh, you know who you are. Now I gotta look this up. This is gonna
I'm
bother
so
me.
embarrassed. I'm usually really good with names. Mm.
Hold on, let me see who got it. Let me look over here real quick. No. Let me do this. This is so embarrassing that we can't.
Oh,
We
Ron
can't.
Story.
Yes.
Ron Story. Ooh, that's terrible. I'm sorry, Ron.
Ron, thank you. We sorry. We don't know how we sorry, Ron. We appreciate you. This has been a good one, Ron. I owe you lunch in person whenever you come out here to San Diego. Because this is exactly what we needed at the beginning of a new year to help people to get unblocked and unbound. You got the program. Dr. Walker, this has been an absolutely enlightening conversation. Your journey, your insights, your dedication to empowering women of color is so inspiring, and we look forward to something for men in the future. But before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about RTT, and even join your Unblocked and Unbound program? You even have like I tried to get my free thing earlier, 5-step guide to getting unstuck, create a fertile ground, and it said download. I don't know where the download went to, but we'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I gotta get me that.
Well, that's good information. If you don't know where it went, then I need to figure that out.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, where can listeners connect with you, learn more about RTT, join your Unblocked and Unbound program, and get that 5-step guide to getting unstuck?
Okay, well, my website is drwalkercoach.com, drwalkercoach.com. And I'm on Facebook, Kimberly Walker, and LinkedIn, Kimberly C. Walker, MD. Mm-hmm. And I'm stepping into Instagram.
Yay! We got to get you unstuck because I think you're going to get unblocked and unbound on Instagram, and Instagram is going to help you get to your audience the way you want to.
That's what I'm told. So I am Dr. K _Walker, and doctor is spelled out on Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
All right. And how can they join your Unblocked and Unbound program?
So, I can give you a link. I mean, if you go to my website, you can schedule a discovery call to talk about if it's good for you. But that's probably the best way to do it. So
everybody, if you're driving, don't worry. I'm gonna put all the links in the show notes. I'll get everything from her, and it'll be in there that you can just easily access and get to her website. Or if you're on at work on your computer, just Google it. It'll pop up, and then schedule yourself a call. Thank you again for coming on. To all our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, take that first step. Reclaim your power. Visit Dr. Walker's website and join our program. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Rise Urban Nation and keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in and stay inspired. Peace.
Thank you.